started to realize at that point specifically was that there was a lot of power in networks. So you've heard a lot today about technology and how technology is really changing the way that we're interacting in the future. But what I want you guys to think about today is the power of relationships. I've interviewed tons of people, and most people that I talk to, their careers, their job opportunities, their happiness, their blind dates, on and on and on. It's because of people in their network, right? So here I am. I had been unemployed. I tapped my network. I landed on my feet. I ended up working for Sir Richard Branson for about 4 years, and I helped him launch Virgin America. Now, how many of you have flown on Virgin America? A couple? A couple of you? It's a great airline. What happened there, even though I'm technically an introvert by background, I was forced to be constantly on the road. I was traveling all the time. I was chatting with people. And so I started becoming fascinated by these connections. So I'm traveling again. There's a gentleman that's coming down the aisle. He looks kind of scruffy. His hair is very matted, and I'm sitting in my seat. He comes and he sits down next to me, and he looked like he hadn't showered in about a week, right? He sits down and he says, "Oh gosh, cool airplane. There's this mood lighting." I said, "Well, tell me more. Why do you like the mood lighting?" He said, "Well, it makes you feel peaceful." I said, "Well, I actually work for the airline. Let me tell you more about that." And he says, "I know your boss." And I said, "Oh, you know David Cush, our CEO?" And he said, "No, I'm friends with Richard Branson. I just was on his island." So you can't see him here that well in the photo, but that's David de Rothschild on his boat. And this is just to show you that you never know who you're talking to, right? So another thing that I've learned over the years that I've talked a lot about with people that I've interviewed is that networking, I'm sure, how many of you, raise your hand if you think of networking as schmoozing and negative, and you think of cold egg rolls when you think about networking? Good, about a third of you, right? The old model of networking was hand out as many business cards as you can. Get out there, hand out the business cards, go to the conferences. The new model is an inside game. It's about looking at the barriers that are holding you back. It's about seeing problems as opportunities. If you want to connect, you have to take an honest look at what is holding you back. Because often, when Jason was talking about not following through and not being motivated, often we are our own worst enemies. We now have about 150 connections that we are active with all the time because of social media. In the past, our circle of empathy, or the number of connections that we had, was 10. So the acceleration that's happened, we've moved from 6 degrees down to 3 degrees. We've moved from about 10 connections to 150. So that means that every connection, online and off, is moving faster and faster and faster. Therefore, your brand personality online and offline is magnified. For those of you that are looking for new opportunities, new careers, more and more jobs are being filled through LinkedIn referrals, internal referrals. All of the power of technology and connecting is accelerating. There's already an app. When we were hearing about cell phones and how cell phones have changed, 97% of people right now have their cell phone 3 feet from them. Anyone here not have a cell phone? Not one of you. Okay, so already connecting because of our technology. There's an app right now called Here on Biz. You could walk into an airport, and if you're linked up on Here on Biz, what's your first name in the front row? John. If John and I were connected on LinkedIn, I could walk into the airport and it could pop up and say, "Porter, John is over at Pinkberry at gate number 27. Why don't you go say hi?" Connecting is no longer going to be us looking for the connections. They're going to be proactively delivered to us on our devices. It's going to come to us proactively based on contextualization, based on who we're connected to, and based on our social graphs. So I leave you with this last thought. When you're thinking about your relationships and you're thinking about what's important and what drives you, I want you to think about your head, your heart, and your wallet, and what's really important and what's driving your happiness. There is tons of research that shows that people with strong networks, strong communities, tend to be happier, they tend to be healthier, and they're more resilient in times of change. So I leave you today, and if you leave with one idea, I want you to think about the power of your connections and the power of your relationships and what they mean in your life. Thank you so much.